Hi there and welcome to Gaining Vision. I'm Melanie. Thanks for tuning in. Have you subscribed to the channel yet? If not, please do so right now. And of course, don't forget to like and share. Have you ever been asked, what is your purpose in life? It's a big question, and each of us has a purpose, but we may not have discovered it yet. This is a lifelong journey. But there's some simple ways to, first of all, identify what your purpose is and what needs to happen to make it happen. So, first thing, is there something in your life that you are very passionate about? Something, a cause or a disservice or something that really just eats at you that you want to change? For some people, it could be the environment. Be the rainforests, it could be abuse. There's something that just gets to everybody that you just want to see change. So you have to find out, what is it that just makes your blood boil when you see this happening. So for me, I didn't know what my purpose was for a long time. And they say things happen for a reason and everything kind of aligns itself for you to discover what your purpose is. So I like to think of it this way. I acquired my disability later in life because I would never have experienced something like having a disability for me to learn what my purpose was. So yes, it sounds cliche, but I feel that me acquiring my disability has shown me what my purpose is in life. I always knew I wanted to be a teacher. I always knew I wanted to help people. But what was it that made my blood boil? Well, I had to experience it personally to really get that passion for it. There's a lot of things I feel passionately about in life, disservices, injustices, things like that. But when I experienced the discrimination and it's disgusting. The way people look and treat individuals with disability as if they are less than and that they don't need to continue knowledge in their lives. I knew that my purpose in life was to show people how much we have and how many abilities as individuals with disabilities we have, and how lifelong learning and access to education and training is so vitally important for individuals with disabilities. So that is my purpose. My purpose is to educate people on the abilities of others. But it took me a long time to learn and realize what my purpose was. As I mentioned, I am very passionate and very upset about many things in life. You know, some people feel their purpose should be in helping abused women. Others feel it should be about saving animals. Whatever their purpose is, it's just something that just gets you, makes your blood boil, something that you absolutely have to see change in this world. When you discover that, it's the first step into figuring out what your purpose is. So once you know what you want to do and what you want to change, that's the first step. Then we have to look at, how are you going to do it? And there's a lot of things you need to consider that when making a plan. You have to really see, first of all, is there a need? Because it's great to create something that you think should happen, but is it genuinely a need for it? Because if there's no need, then you're not going to get the response you're looking for. You're not going to see progress. You're not going to see change happen if there's no need. The only reason you're going to figure out if there's a need is by talking to people and by educating yourself and finding out what's already being done, because you don't want to reinvent the wheel. There's so many people that are life coaches, and that's great because we all need some sort of coaching in our lives. But if they all did the same thing and they all focus on the exact same thing, there wouldn't be many people for them to do help and change in the world, because everybody would be doing the same thing. So find out, is there a need and what that need is. So you're passionate about your purpose, you know what needs to happen. You have to then think about, what are you willing to sacrifice? Sacrifice, you say. Why do I have to sacrifice? Well, what I mean by that is you have to allow yourself time to focus on this purpose. You probably still have to work a 9 to 5 job, and 9 times out of 10, you may not be working at your purpose unless you quit your day job to do what you love and you're passionate about. So are you going to sacrifice your spare time to pursue your purpose? Are you going to sacrifice those vacations that you would maybe otherwise take? Are you going to sacrifice working in a traditional place? Because let's face it, once you realize what your purpose is, your whole life is going to have to revolve around that purpose. I learned when I started my charity, that was my focus. That was my everything. And it still is to this day, but I also realized it had to be balanced. I still needed to make a living. And as my charity wasn't funded, there was no money. So it didn't mean that my purpose was going to shift, but it just meant it's going to take a different form on. So what are you willing to sacrifice? Is it you're willing to sacrifice making a 9 to 5 paycheck? Is it meant that you're going to sacrifice your standards? Because let's face it, when you're trying to really achieve what your true purpose is, there may be things you need to do and say that may not be aligned with how you feel at that moment. But we have to go through these motions to ultimately get to where we want to see actual change happen. So we're talked to people, we figured out how we're going to do it. Now by making time to do it. That's the other thing we have to do. So some people work that 9 to 5 job and then they allow their evenings to work on their purpose. It could be a weekend that they focus it on. Whatever it is, by making the time in your life to really work toward that goal. And you have to have a plan in order to follow all these things. So you know what you're trying to change, you know what your purpose is, you've talked to people, you see there's a need, you now have to set a plan on how you're going to accomplish it. What steps need to happen in order for your purpose to actually come to light and for you to actually make change? There's going to be different ways that you're going to be achieving this. For me, to ensure that other people with disabilities had access to education and training and that people saw them for their abilities, I started with my charity. I started with doing some tutoring and teaching and doing workshops. But then I also realized there's other ways that I have to educate people. So I started to do public speaking, and I wrote a book to share my story and ways that can help people. And it's not just to share my story about me, but also the experiences I went through so people could see others for their abilities. So I go out and I do educational speaking so that I'm helping educate people about the abilities of others. By doing these YouTube videos is another thing that I'm focusing on to accomplish my purpose. If I can just educate and change one person's point of view, I'm on the right track. We don't realize our actions and words have impact on so many people. There are so many people with disabilities that do so much more than I even do. They are accomplished, they have PhDs, they're lawyers, there's so many amazing individuals that have so many gifts and talents. And their purposes are different. And that's okay, because it has to be individualized. It has to be something that person is focused on. So once you get your plan and you've allotted time for it, we always have to do check-ins. And what I mean by that is, are we on the right track? Is it making a difference? And it's okay if it's not, because as I mentioned, this is a lifelong adventure. So checking in with people, seeing how effective those workshops, the work that my charity does, is something I do every year. Because I have to make sure I'm not just doing something for the sake of doing it. I'm actually making an impact. With the different talks I'm doing, am I reaching people? With YouTube, yes, okay, we can look at benchmarks like numbers, likes, followers, subscribers, whatever. But the reality is, are people actually coming back to me and saying, I really liked what you said about that. I didn't know that. And then, of course, seeing how my clients are benefiting from all the work I do. That's the biggest impact for me. The more people we educate, the more people we show that individuals with disabilities have so many abilities is my purpose in life. That is what my focus will always be. But if it's not making an impact on people that is important to me, you have to question, am I on the right track? And you may have to take a step back, take a pause for a minute and reevaluate and see, where am I going wrong? What needs to change? And that's okay. That's not failure. That's growth. So as I mentioned, lifelong journey, there's going to be many ups and downs, and there's going to be many detours in that journey. But if you are true to your purpose, you will continue fighting the battle, and you will find new ways to make this happen. Those yearly, monthly, daily check-ins are important. Talking with people in your circle, and when I say about your circle, your close personal friends and family, the people you trust, having those conversations with them, asking them their thoughts, but then widening the circle and talking to the professionals in the field that you're trying to focus on. So for me, the disability community or the community at large, having those conversations with people and finding out from them where the needs are. That's going to help drive my purpose. As I mentioned, being a life coach, there's many amazing things and many amazing life coaches, but they all have a focus. They all have a purpose for their specific services. And without that purpose, and it's usually something they're focused on and passionate about, you need to really find the energy and energize yourself in order to achieve your purpose. And that might be by the feedback you get. It might be by the same injustices you're seeing happening more frequently. Something is going to energize you and push you to do it. For me, it's my clients. It's also watching society and the changes that are happening and what still needs to be done. But my purpose will never falter. Having a purpose is a good thing. It keeps us on track. It keeps us focused on making a difference in the world. But it also can be draining. It also can be discouraging when things don't go the way we want it to. It's okay to feel a sense of doubt from time to time when you have a purpose, because you wouldn't be human if you didn't. But the challenge is not to get discouraged and to keep on track and to keep fighting the fight, because without individuals like us